Okay, I think we have time to have a couple of questions when Ricardo comes back out. I would suggest that just to make it a little bit easier for everyone to hear everyone else's questions, unless you want to shout your question, why don't you just walk up to the microphone. It's a small group, we can kind of speak, move around comfortably with each other.
Do you want me to go there, or should I go?
You want to stand up here? Or?
Sure, yeah, I mean, we're not that big, right? You guys can hear me back there if I just would, yeah, right? And, you know, this way I'll probably, he's a little taller than me, if you didn't notice. Oh, man. It's going to have a Dr. Phil moment. Hey, everybody, thanks everybody for staying. First off, you know, I'm glad nobody's asleep. You know, it's a little hard in the dark here. I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. And, yeah. I guess the first thing I'll say to kind of start it off, because, you know, not everybody's raising their hand. The first thing is that, you know, oftentimes people, they come up to you and say, why don't you film this? Why don't you film that? You know, why don't you talk about immigration reform or, you know, demand and the whole immigration system? And actually, when we first started to make the film, that's actually what the movie was about, was, you know, all these, you know, we did this great thing where we went to Texas and, you know, we talked to farmers and, you know, dairy farmers who had a lot of, you know, workers that were undocumented. And we were going to do this whole thing about, you know, the broken immigration system or the things that were working in the immigration system, you know, things that were working and stuff. And then, you know, the story of the wall kind of just took its own life. You know, we met Gloria about 3 or 4 months into it, and, you know, it was Gloria, you know, she was this whole story, you know, she was playing with her little armadillo, and it was like, oh my God, that's the movie right there. So, and so, you know, to put that out there, you know, a lot of times people say, well, why didn't you film this or that? And you know, a lot of times we did, as a matter of fact. We just, you know, it's a movie, and, you know, it's quite a long movie in itself. You know, I always wanted the whole thing to be like 3 minutes long or 15 minutes long, and, you know, you got to focus that story. So that's one of the reasons. And it'll probably be on the DVD when it comes out. While I still got you all here, we do have a website, thewalldocumentary.com, and if, you know, if all of you were to join my Facebook page, for instance, that'd be really cool, because all of a sudden our numbers would go up, and the movie executives would go, oh my God, look at what happened. So, you know, just to let you guys know ahead of time. And I pace also, I'm sorry, it's just what I do, it's a nervous habit. All right, there she goes, the first one.
How long did you spend filming this documentary?
We spent, well, let's see, we started the first thing we ever filmed in New York, which we never ended up using actually, in November of 2006. So the bill was signed October 26th, you know, and I think I got something in the mail like October 14th, and they said, oh, you know, or my friend said, hey, check this out, this is, you know, this is going to happen, and so I was really surprised. Thank you for coming, ladies, by the way, thanks. You know, they had to run, so I want to say thank you ahead of time. So yeah, you know, we heard about the law coming up, and I was just really surprised that it was going to go, you know, to get signed. Like it was through Congress. Everybody thought it was a great idea. Let's go, AK. And I was really surprised what my friends were saying in New York City about this thing. You know, I was living in New York City at the time, and I thought my friends were, you know, smart people, you know, or intelligent. One might even call them liberals, and yet they were all, you know, saying, oh yeah, you know, we got to do something there, right? I mean, so. That was back then, that's when we started to film. So about 2.5 years we filmed from 2006 until a little bit past 2008. We were doing little things here and there. Yes, sir.
I see that man faces, they're not like walls. But I just want to say that it is completely mind-boggling and eye-opening in the sense that, of course, we know it happens, but we need constant reminders that the government goes crazy, that bureaucrats go crazy, that the public goes crazy when they can't split between their teeth over any issue regarding the safety of patriotism or anything like this. And this once more, I think it does a tremendous job of undermining this grand confidence we have that the technocrats will and politicians together will really solve things. So it does a great service to us. I do have one qualm you talk about leaving things out. And I think that there's a hole in the wall that you built here, the wall against the president. Because I know that there are people who are going to say, what are you going to do? have all these immigrants. They're all over there, all these poor people. You don't want them flooding into the country. Yes, I know you don't like it, but you have to have it. So I think, I don't know if you could have fitted in well. I mean, it's a great film without it, but just to have some idea of the political stuff behind it, why there's so much crime, how what this has to do with the United States policies, not only over years and decades, but centuries, how what money has done to subvert the U.S. government, what you mentioned, one of the people was from Honduras. We just had that in the news, what's going on in Honduras. Why are these people so cool? That would, I would have loved to see that, but then again, I'd like to see every letter of my alphabet.
Well, wow. So the question was, why?
The question was, how do you, first of all, how do you react to my praise, my fulsome praise? But then again, do you think that, how do you react just to the idea that another thing that we don't know enough about is the politics behind the poverty?
Oh, you mean, why don't we talk more about what caused this whole reason for them to come here?
Yes, right.
And I think, sorry, I summarized there, so I just want to make sure I got it right. But I think, number one, first thing, the movie's about America. What are Americans doing on the border? First, because, most, Mexican government officials are very open and critical of the policy, of defense, specifically. President Calderon, this is ridiculous. Felipe Fox, is it Felipe Fox? President Fox, sorry. Vicente Fox, I think it's Vicente. Said that the completely railed against the whole notion of defense. He said, it didn't work in Berlin, things like that. Coincidentally, so did Gorbachev, come in later. He was actually giving a speech where he criticized his own, the Eastern Bloc, the wall against communism and how it failed. And then he went on to talk about the Mexican border fence. So coming back to Mexico, at what point do you stop? What story is it? Is it the story about what we're doing, Americans, in a movie that we can show here in America to educate other Americans? Or is this a movie about what's contributed to the poverty in Mexico, which I think in itself would have been a movie? And so, in the process of editing, we can talk about it briefly to talk about very basic ideas within the characters. It's still a story. Right. I'm not really into, watching, 3 hours of somebody talk at the camera and say, well, the demographics of Mexico and, politically and NAFTA and, the loss of farmland. I mean, we go into this multiple different points. I want to see a story. And so the characters can, you can only talk about this stuff in the world that the characters live in, Right. So I hope that answer kind of gets to where you get, so, yeah. She's first, though, I got to let her go first. Sorry, ma'am. How you doing?
Well, for one thing, you could make an 8-part documentary about all the issues involved. You're right, you have to limit it to something. But I guess the question, did you find anything positive at all?
Did I find anything positive at all? Yeah.
I mean, it resulted from this wall.
That resulted from the fence. One of the questions I think that I wanted to find was how little did I know. I went down to Mexico. I got my own preconception. I'm half Mexican. I'm half Mexican, half Ecuadorian. I grew up in California. I've been across the border. Everybody's got their own preconceptions. What are these people going to be like when they get down there? And you just got to have them. But the main thing that I always told myself is I don't know everything, And I had my friends and, my girlfriend to remind me I don't know everything all the time. So I go, and to tell you the truth, I was telling this kid who had to leave early, actually, he was a really smart guy, it's a boring movie if I go down there and film exactly what I expect him to say. I mean, it's a very two-dimensional character. The most interesting parts of the story are when somebody proves you wrong or when they're a little bit different than you thought. A lot of people get angry about Gloria Garza. She gets happy that her house is saved. But that's a very human emotion. That's what happened. Some people who are against the fence, so why doesn't the movie end like, oh my God, the fence is horrible, call your congressman now, run out in the streets and protest. But that's not what happened. As a matter of fact, yeah, they saved this woman's house, and she was not for the wall, but yeah, she was happy for a second, She still got a fence near her house, but at least her house was saved, The human being is more complex than we could ever plan, and so back to your original point, what did you find good about this? Well, we first talked about, number one, it helped a lot of the Rio Grande Valley kind of organize and realize that they were politically active. Gloria Garza was never politically active, For what it's worth, if it wasn't for things like this, who knows if she ever would have been that active. I mean, she wasn't going to roll over and let somebody take her house, but I can tell you right now that whole town of Granjeno knows every single, they know who to call when something's wrong. That's a major benefit, And I wouldn't be here if you think about it, and we wouldn't be talking about it if we didn't do such policies like this. It gets more people educated. I wasn't a very political guy. All of a sudden, all my friends are, same deal. Like, we're paying attention now. So at the very least, we can say at least this has forced us all to kind of talk about it a little bit more, and at least be a little bit more active. Unless, or otherwise we're going to start getting more fences,
Okay, so I guess my point was, do you think the wall has actually done any good? Is there anything good that has come out of the actual physical structure?
I would really like to say yes. And then maybe at some point, I will. And I want to just leave it, I'm not here to make any declarative statements of how evil the wall is. That's just how I am, because I want everybody to give it a shot and listen to the movie for a second. So I'll tell you that it's been really hard for me to find benefits of the fence. Yeah. I'm trying to keep, I know, man, that's a politician's answer right there, right? I'm sorry about that, but, you.
I was going to say, one of the characters, Wilfredo, talk about how we met him and how he's doing.
How did I meet Wilfredo? How's he doing? Wilfredo has been deported. Wilfredo is gone, unfortunately. Yeah, he's back. He's home. He's with his family. But Willie, as people call him, they say Wheelie, which is really strange. He was a really nice guy. He was one of like 12 to 15 people that I gave my card to, and I said, oh my God, if you ever make it, please call me. And they said, oh sure, give me $100. I said, sorry, I can't do anything. That's a federal offense. Thank you, but please call me if you get there. And quite honestly, I gave my card to 12, 15 people. I had filmed them. It was an interesting story. I was just praying somebody called me when they got across. One day I get a phone call. It's Wilfredo, really? Who? And he's like, Wilfredo, you met me in Mexico. I was about to come across. I said, really? He says, yeah, well, anyway, I'm here in Tennessee. I made it. You said you want to film what's going on. And so we went out there and we went to Tennessee, to Chattanooga. And, we talked to him for a while and he was really happy, and he told us his whole story and that's how we found him. We were real lucky, we talked to as many people. Every time we talked to somebody who said they were going to go across, we said, listen, here's my card. Give me a phone call when you get there. And he was the only one that called us. And then when the movie was almost done, I suddenly got a phone call and he's like, it's Willie, I'm here in Honduras, I'm back in my hometown. I'm like, so he's back there in Honduras right now. So he got caught somewhere else. I think he got caught in Texas. Something happened to him and he was detained for a couple weeks. Next thing you know, he ended up in Honduras. So yeah, but anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Question, will your movie be shown like in high schools or anything like that? And the reason I ask is because I went last year with my daughter and her school, Sacred Heart, here in Hampton, and we went to Reynosa, Mexico.
Oh.
And I'm sure the girls and the faculty that went really get something out of watching.
Hey, I'll give you my card. Let's just talk about it. No, I would love to. Hey, seriously, that's why we're here. Yes, ma'am.
Did you find it difficult to show both arguments of the issue? And if yes, which one was harder to film?
It was all hard to film. But it was hard to film not just for the arguments against the fence. It was actually more difficult to watch people come out of the desert, after they've been walking for 28 miles, than it was to listen to Nancy talk about how, Hispanic people are overpopulating the country. And, actually the full line I like to tell people, that's actually not everything that she said. She went on for a long time, believe me, all these different things. And, some of this stuff we were like, wow, we're just filming, and I was like, well, we can't show no, we can't put that in. And she's going to come after us with a lawsuit. Even though, she was actually Nancy, and that's the other part I would talk about is Nancy, the lady who says that, I don't go to, there's nothing wrong being white, and, yeah, this is a, white. But, one of the things about that as a person is she's a human being, she's just like everybody else. She just had a different set of circumstances in her life, and you want her to say what she thinks. And so one of the things she said also after that was like, I don't go to Africa and tell Africa they need more white people in Africa. Why are they coming here telling me they need more Hispanics in America, And, she could go on. So I said, well, so what are you trying to say? Are you saying that, America is, like a white, Christian country or something? Because she said something about Christians earlier. And she said, oh, yeah, I mean, basically, America's a white Christian country. And then she looked at me and she goes, and Jewish, So, I think, and that's a true story. I mean, I think, but, in all, defense of Nancy, in the beginning of the night, she's really, I mean, they're all really nice. These are retirees. They're from the Midwest. They're just coming down. She was from San Diego. They're really just coming. They're really polite. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And they had actually offered Nancy as the person to talk to. Like, that was the person that was supposed to be with us, like, that day. They were like, oh, talk to Nancy. She's the one who likes to talk to media. So this was supposed to be their, their laid-back person, And so we go to her, and, she's all cool. And then it started to get darker and darker, and I got this big camera on my shoulder, and, I got glasses on, and I guess, she thought I was Jewish or something like that. Which I could be. I guess, there's Jews in Mexico. There's a big Jewish population, so. Hey. Either way, I'm glad that, she's told me how she felt. So that was the most interesting part, was not to go, back to your original question, was not to go, oh shit, like, you just gotta be like, okay, well, can you tell me a little bit more about that? What do you mean? So, yeah. Anybody else? Yes?
How big was your production team?
How big was my production team? It was actually very small. Me and soundman. Sometimes it was up to, in the bar scene with all the ladies in Arivaca, that was like a 5-person shoot. When we were in Mexico, we were 5 people because, 1 plus translator. But after most of the time, we thought about having a bigger crew, but it's like, certain logistical things become a problem. I had 2 people, for instance, in the cop car, and where do you put the sound man in a cop car? Well, if you've never done this before, you don't know the answer, but the real answer is he gets to sit in the back behind the glass. So, this guy was, I had to put my sound man in the back of the car for most of the ride, but you're basically 2 people for the whole time. And also, you want to be kind of hidden, when you don't want to be this massive amount of crew members, so, yeah. Anybody else? Oh, there you go. How you doing?
Was it difficult gaining access to the government agencies or gaining access to the footage, say when you're out, filming in the desert or in tunnels with infrared cameras or something like that?
Was it difficult getting access to the law enforcement and government agencies? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was very difficult. Nobody wanted to do anything. Everybody kept saying, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Talk to this other guy. That went on for 6 months. We filled out questionnaires, and I had to meet this woman, and then this person, and this person. Everybody wants to know your social security number and what your criminal history is. And have you ever, in a million years, ever been near a drug dealer? Because if you have, you are not doing anything. So the good thing is that apparently I'm 100% clean, and I could probably run for office at this point with that kind of record. But the thing is that nobody trusted us, and then we met Tony, Sheriff Estrada. Sheriff Estrada, I talked to him, and I really liked him. And I talked to him for a good half hour, hour and a half, and I think he liked me because after that, he said, give me a call back in a few weeks. I think I can arrange a couple things for you. And it started from there. And he really, really was so good to us because he opened so many doors. You know, once we had a full sheriff on board that thought that we were really trying to show what was going on, that we were not, you know, we weren't going to bookend it or do it to fulfill our own means, that we were actually going to try to tell what he was dealing with. He was very excited to have us out there. And he gave us the pass with everybody else. The big guy with the mustache, you know, he's in Yuma County. He actually advised Bush on a lot of his, you know, border patrol strategies at the time. I mean, he's actually like pretty high up there as far as giving counsel to the White House, even this administration. And he told me point blank, you know, Tony said you're great, so that's why you can film with us. So yeah, he's cool. Hey, is there anybody else? Oh wow, look at that. I answered every single question.
Well, thank you again.
No, and thank Quinnipiac as well, you know.